On this episode, we go over what's wrong with U.S. soccer, what's wrong with Bakersfield refs, what's wrong with Bakersfield soccer, and this guy's got to get out of here to go yell at some kids. What's up, everybody? This is Ray Sanders. This is episode number 11 of Coach Knows Best. So we have a guest here today, Mr. Matt Dold. I appreciate you coming down. He is a local coach. He coaches for Stockdale High School here in Bakersfield, and he's actually moving to
Beach FC.
Beach FC.
Long Beach and South Bay.
Yeah, so Beach FC, for some of you guys who don't know, they're one of the best clubs in the country. They're a really big club, obviously, down in the South Bay, Long Beach area. Actually, I have a couple of friends. You know Drew, right?
Drew, right?
Yeah. So he's a Bakersfield guy, CSUD
Anton.
alumni. So, so he's going down there. So I met Matt maybe like back in December or so.
South Tournament.
Yeah, and so, and it was one of those things where I had heard a lot about you, a lot of bad stuff, to be honest with you, a lot of like controversial things. So anyway, but I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised that there was aspects about you that were not matching up to what it was that people were saying. So that was cool. So we've kind of gotten along since then. He's on his way out, unfortunately, of the community, but at the same time, what I really like is you're from Santa Rosa area, and so I really like to be able to bring him in before he leaves town to be able to get his perspective on Bakersfield. I feel like NorCal is kind of its own beast, Southern California is its own beast, but then Bakersfield is its own bubble, right? And so this is my community, so I'm staying, but at the same token, I wanted to see what his perspectives were. So we got that. No Caesar here. He's he's a slacker. He's at home. He had surgery on his knee. He could for sure be here, but we have Reagan here, my daughter, and so she's gonna hit start. And this is really like the extent of Caesar. Like he hits a button, and that's all he does. All the magic's up here. Yeah. So, anyways, cool. First question.
What are the main issues with high school refs?
So, this is an interesting question. Referee is all. We've done a couple of questions on referees, but I'm really curious about what it is that your perspective is. Club referees aren't even always that great, but I'm kind of curious about what it is that you think as far as high school refs.
For me, high school refs, 90% of the time, in my opinion, have lost control of the game the minute they step out of the car. So before they even get to the field, they've lost control of the game. So many times this year in high school that I've seen reckless tackles, and when they're reckless, I mean from behind, there's no ball ever won. It's usually the shin guard that's won, and all I hear is play on. And then what frustrates me the most, I would say, is a small little bump on the ball. Someone gets shouldered off the ball, and it's an automatic whistle, foul, yellow card, let me talk to you. And then as coaches, we can't even ask questions anymore.
Yeah. I've seen that actually when I've watched high school games. Yeah.
So that's basically my most frustrating thing about high school soccer and the referees is, I would say, the inability for a referee to decipher what's dangerous play, what's a normal tackle, and
you know, one of the things that's really interesting about that concept is that when we talk about, like, you know, our country is so big right now on youth development, and something that's not taken into consideration enough is referees. I feel like referees stunt the growth of development as well.
Absolutely.
So within this scenario, two kids go shoulder to shoulder. There's been plenty of times, right? You have a player that gets stuck in on a tackle. It's a completely fair tackle. They've done a good job, and then now the referee calls a foul, and it's like that communication to that player is that tackle or that type of play isn't allowed, and that's not going to be what's going to translate in college or at a higher level in club or whatever it may be. And so they stunt the growth, I feel like, subconsciously as far as that goes, right? Yeah. So when you say they lose control before they've even got out of their car, right? Like, so what do you mean? Because I know what you mean, but like, what do you
like? They're more concerned about what parents are going to say on the sideline. They're more concerned about making coaches happy necessarily, or even like trying to have the spotlight on themselves. Yeah. Like, look at me, I'm a referee and I control it. I control the game. I have the whistle. You don't say anything to me. There's a lack of respect, I think, between both coaches and referees. Yeah. To be honest with you, there is one referee in town. His name is Damien, and I feel like he does a really good job of like keeping control of the game.
I literally was going to ask you about him.
I love Damien. I love Damien. I think he does a really good job. Every time I see him, we kind of laugh, and I always ask him, like, why weren't you at my game? And for some reason, he's always obviously reffing the boys' games to keep those games under control.
Right.
But I would say there's a fair share of referees in this town that do truly care about the safety of the kids, but then there's some where it's like they want the game to play on, and they want the clock to run down as quick as they can.
Right. You know, one of the things that's interesting. So, what do you think? One of the reasons why I believe that we have this issue, though, is we have a shortage in referees for Bakersfield. So you may not know a lot about this. Bakersfield used to have State Cup here. We used to have more tournaments here. Even I give a little shout out to our tournament, Winter Cup. We have the Summer Cup coming this summer, June 9th and 10th. Deanna did a good job, dude.
I thought the tournament was really run smoothly.
Yep.
And all the games were they were well reffed.
Yep.
And the crazy thing to me is
that dude, you got kicked out of one of the games.
Well, for sure, because it's a scissor tackle from behind.
Yeah.
But I mean, I should have done that. You know.
That's good.
But at the same time, I'm always gonna protect my kids.
Yeah.
It was. I understand the ref said it was 9-0 at that time that we were playing, but for me, it's the safety of the kids.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I hate that. On a side note, I hate that. I hate when stuff because you're winning by a lot or losing by a lot.
Yeah.
That the referee will now change the way that he's reffing.
I've seen where I'm winning 8-0 and there's an obvious handball in the box and he doesn't call it, and it's like, call it.
That's not fair.
That's
not
my
problem, dude. It's not fair to the kids, right?
Absolutely. Like, you're taking away from the kids. Who cares if it's going to be 9-0? I mean, I might even allow a kid at 8-0 to a kid that would never ever take a PK, let him go try and take a PK to make it 9-0.
Yeah.
And if he makes it 9-0, like, that's not my fault that they hand it in the box or their goalkeeper can't stop the PK.
Yep. If your absolutely, and if your kids worked hard to be good enough to be winning 8-0, then that's the way it goes. Now, I do think that maybe there's a line where a coach should ultimately pull his team back a little bit. But not in the sense of like, don't intentionally score or don't
for sure.
intentionally not score, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing, and that's the thing that frustrates me about the referees or whatnot. So really quick, so anyway, so we used to have a bunch of tournaments into town. We used to have all of that, and so when I've talked to like the different referee associations, the problem is that we don't have enough refs. Even like when I was a kid, dude, a lot of my teammates, peers would ref games, and so we don't have that a whole lot anymore because there's not enough games during the year. So you have the fall season, and then that's pretty much it. So
I think really to solve this, if they could solve this all by having boys on one night and girls on the other, and then all the top referees could ref the boys' games on Tuesday, Thursdays, and all the top refs could ref the girls' games on Wednesday, Fridays.
I like it.
And then we could also go watch the boys' games, because that's frustrating for me too. Is when I'm playing a varsity game at Centennial, and we're at Centennial, I'm never going to see the Stockdale boys play at Stockdale. And obviously Centennial boys were the legit team this year for the boys' side.
Sure. That sucks. Good point. Next question. Okay. Good.
So, about losing control in the games for the referees, I saw a video of a Liberty varsity game, girls versus Frontier girls, and it was their first time they played each other throughout the year. And one of the Liberty girls was kind of drugged down by one of the Frontier girls. And at the very end of the play, you see the Liberty girl absolutely just crush the girl with her elbow right to her face. And
insert the video, Reagan. Good.
For me, the biggest issue I have with that is that there was a referee in AR standing 5 yards away, and he walked onto the field, and all that was given out of all that was a yellow card.
Right.
And so for me, you're basically telling that player that behavior is okay.
Yeah, 100%. I think the big problem with that, to give you a little bit more insight too, is that, to my understanding, the linesman said to the center ref what it is that happened. The center ref basically said, well, I didn't see that. So then, and this happens all the time, I didn't see that, so I'm just going to give her a yellow. It's like, okay, well, look, what did you see that merited a yellow? Because if you saw any of that, it's obviously a red. If you didn't see anything and you're not going to trust your linesman, which...
What are they doing there?
Right? Yeah. And so then it shouldn't have been anything at all. And it should have just been a foul on the Frontier girl.
Absolutely.
And so when I talked to the ref, actually, he was at our tournament, and I talked to him and asked him, and he said, well, yeah, I saw the video after, and obviously it should have been a red card. And I'm like, well, yeah, but didn't your linesman say something? And he gave me some excuse back also about that as well. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a perfect example, dude, of like referees losing control. They don't know how to manage the situations. I also want to add, I really believe that a big problem why referees don't do a great job, and it's not their fault, but it's a lot of them didn't play at a high level.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like if you ref, you would be able to analyze situations where like you kind of know, like, yeah, dude, that's just kind of part of the game.
Well, like for tonight's game, I'm on my second yellow of the year, which is
that's surprising.
That's surprising.
I'm
on my fifth, but they never recorded the other three.
Yeah.
So I was told by my AD yesterday, if I get my third tonight, at home, I can't coach in the Friday game.
Wow.
So I have to be on my best behavior tonight. So I'll probably have to be extremely quiet throughout the game.
Yeah.
Hopefully the referee shows up and he's ready to actually ref the game and keep it under control.
We'll find out. We're going to post this after the game. Cool.
What are the biggest issues with U.S. soccer?
Controversial question, sad question to answer. So many different opinions on it. Did you follow the convention at all? The electing of the new president?
I did.
U.S. soccer? Yeah. So I don't know much about the guy. I was going for Eric Ronaldo, but really for no reason. So essentially, U.S. U.S. men's national team didn't qualify for the World Cup. There's a lot of opinions about it. So again, getting an outsider's perspective, at least outside of our community, what's your perspective? What are the biggest issues with U.S. soccer?
I think the biggest issues right now with U.S. soccer is everybody in the U.S. thinks that soccer is a big thing for us, and they forget the fact that we have the Major League Baseball, the NBA, and NFL. So with our country having those three major sports, all of our big athletes are off playing those sports. I mean, imagine if you had LeBron James playing as a goalkeeper.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Emmett Smith, I don't know if you heard about this. Emmett Smith loved soccer as his first choice, but couldn't afford it financially, so he played football.
Wow.
Could you imagine like an outside back or something?
Back,
you know?
yeah.
So
I know another issue that I feel is the United States doesn't have the same player market, so we don't have the option to buy and sell players here like the rest of the world. So I think that comes down to an issue where everybody that plays soccer here as a youth player is basically their parents have to pay for it, or a coach has to help out in other ways, like buy kids shoes to get them to come to the team so they can win games. But realistically, without the player market, it's going to be really tough for us to compete when the rest of the world is building players at 7, 8, 9, signing their kids to big academies at 12, and then bringing them in from the ground up.
Combined by the fact, too, like as an example, in Holland, at Ajax, I went to a coaching course there, and if they identified a player for a Belgium type of equivalent club team or whatnot, they pay them $15,000 for a youth player, right? 12-year-old kid. He was there for 3 years. They pay him $15,000 per year that he was there. So the incentive for the club to develop the players now is different because they're going to be compensated, right? So what I think that we ultimately lack really is within the youth development aspect is a true pyramid type of a system. So what we have is academy at the top essentially, and then really, really wide after that.
But
so
see, I don't even think the real academy is an academy here. Well, because if you look at outside, like if you go to Mexico, I have a couple of boys that were over there, and when they go to the academy and they live on site, they wake up in the morning, they train, they go to school on site, they eat on site, so you're able to control their diets.
No doubt.
You're able to then get them back to training on time, on site, and you're just around them, and they don't take vacations. Like here, I was coaching for a local club here, and I mean, I remember there were times where I'd only have 8 kids at practice because, 4 kids would be in Hawaii and 2 would be over the hill at the beach. And I understand it's hot in the summer here.
Sure.
And that's obviously one of the reasons why I have to get out of here is I didn't know it was going to be 115 degrees here in the summer for nuts, 3 months out of the year.
It's nuts.
Which is crazy.
It's nuts.
But, I mean, the development all comes from being here. And when parents don't even want to do 3 days a week, it's tough.
I know, dude. And it's weird because you have like gymnastics, water polo, some other local sports that they go 5 days a week.
I mean, and Bakersfield especially is known for like how good their other sports are. I mean, football is huge here in Bakersfield, compared to where I was from back up north.
So I agree with you actually. So even to clarify and break it down even more, I still believe in the pyramid system that everything should flow up because players should play with like players. And so I don't have a problem, dude, with the team that only has 8 kids that show up because kids go to Hawaii and on and on. But then it has to match up with their ambitions. They have to know they're not going to go to UCLA or whatnot. And the trouble is because we're so big geographically, those 8 players that showed up to training and 2 of them that really want it and have talent, where do they go? Like, where's the next step? And so they're kind of, in a sense, dragged down. And I think that the way that it should be is the top should be, in my opinion, youth professional clubs, 5 days a week, best coaches that our country has to offer, etc. So that would be the top academy, tier 1, so to speak. There should be a tier 2 academy. That should be the top clubs, right? So maybe like Pats, they do a really good job, I think, as an actual academy. Surf does okay, I think, as far as an actual academy. So then from there, I think it should be this 3rd tier. And then the 3rd tier should still be academy. It should be certain rules. So we lost academy because of fields and licensing, right? But what we should be able to have is the option to be able to qualify back. And any club for that matter, in my opinion. LA Galaxy, South Valley, any club, if you're willing, this is our rules. If you meet that criteria, we'll let you into the lowest tier of academy. So tier 1, professional, tier 2, top-notch club. Both of those are like invite essentially only. Tier 3, qualified, like if you just qualify with the rules, coaching, licensing, fields, whatever it may be, the amount of days that you have to practice. Then from there, club, right? And then what they should do, like one of the things that we were always told as far as our academy was, we encourage you to make it free, but we're not going to make it mandatory. Make it mandatory. Yeah. Like one of the problems that we have like within youth soccer is the money aspect. Say, look, you want to be a part of the academy, problem solve it yourself. Do tournaments, do fundraisers, do all this stuff. Problem solve it yourself to be able to make it free.
Absolutely.
So that way that money's not coming from U.S. soccer. So it should be a true pyramid system, tiered in that sense, in my opinion, and then there has to be some connecting piece of second and third division, even not PDL, but second division that they have already with USL, and then a third division within USL where you're able to ultimately still be a pro. So just a training environment overall. Coaching education is far too expensive. We were talking about our coaching licenses earlier. The B license right now is $3,000. The A license I think is $4,000, $5,000. I mean, dude, it's 3 times to Kansas.
Yeah.
Right. So, dude, you're talking about the D license going twice. The C license, B license, A license, you got to go 3 times. Now it's a neutral spot in Kansas. So then, dude, you have to.
And we're still trying to coach games. So my biggest issue is I've been able to find a way to be able to make it where my D license is on one weekend, and the second part of it is on another weekend where I don't have a conflict.
Yeah. Because
there's obviously tournaments and other games that we're trying to play with our kids, which is a whole other story on why our kids play 4 games a weekend. I think that's safe for them.
Right.
But,
yeah, dude. Yeah, like I was noticing like in a tournament, a top-notch tournament in England, they were playing 20-minute halves. And I was like, what? But they played 2 games a day. But it's only 20-minute halves, or it was like a 40-minute game with no halftime. So, anyways. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously a ton of issues with U.S. soccer. You know, I think that you know, the new leadership, I'm really curious to see. One of the things that I really dislike, what do you think about like when you hear some of these people that are saying there's nothing really wrong with U.S. soccer, that if I think it was Dempsey, if he would have not hit the post and 2 inches to the other side, he would have made it against Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, how many times have we as coaches said, oh, we should have won that game?
Sure.
You know, or, oh, you know, that referee, exactly, but we didn't. Or that referee didn't give us that PK.
Yeah.
So I think the main issue that we need to look at as people in the United States and coaches is we didn't qualify.
Yep.
We need to find the problem, stop blaming and doing other things like we like to do, I think, in the United States. I hate when people are either entitled, feel entitled, or blame the other person. Like, you know how many times I've won a game in high school, I'm the man that day or that night for the entire community, for all my parents, and then I lose a game, and all of a sudden there's phone calls going into the AD about how bad of a coach I am, the decisions I made, like the way that we blame and don't find solutions. That's why we are at where we are at right now.
Yep, I agree. So, and you nailed it, dude, because I think the thing is that we blame the referee didn't call a PK, whatever it may be, the post thing, right? It's the same thing as that in the sense of like the PK. I've always talked about this with kids. It's like, look, you're talking about the PK that the ref didn't call. What about the 5 breakaways that we missed?
Yeah.
Like, you only care because we were winning 1-0 and the referee maybe gave the other team a PK and now it's 1-1. But we should have won 5-1. So that's my problem with the post thing with Clint Dempsey. We played Trinidad and Tobago. They have 2.5 million people, something like that population. And it's like, dude, we have more than that. We have 10 times that in LA. We should have been winning 5-0.
Yeah.
And then we hit the post and nobody talks about it. So anyway, so there's a ton of problems, but I agree with a lot of what you said.
Who currently is the best team in town by age group? The opinion expressed here is that of Mr. Dold. It is not necessarily out of rate, and the CKB staff, the Aztecs Board of Directors, or producer Reagan Sanders. We now continue your previously scheduled programming.
So this is interesting. We talked about it a little bit, all right? What's the point? Why would we ask this question? But I'm really curious about your perspective on this, and I have a reason why. So go ahead, Will. Who do you think the best team is?
The reason why I had this was at one point I felt like my 05 boys team was the best team in Bakersfield for Bakersfield, but I always had an issue with.
But they were,
but when we go over the hill, we're not, and so people need to get out of that bubble of like it's just Bakersfield, and if your only goal is to be the best team in your own town, like that's not very good in my opinion. So I kind of got.
That's literally why I want to ask this question.
Yeah, for sure. Because realistically, I took my team the first year I got here to Cali Crown, and we ran through the competition, and won every game, including the final, by 4 or more. And for me, the next year, I refused to do it because I just felt like it was kind of a waste of time, and it kind of gave our boys like the wrong vision, exactly, of what we really are and what we want to be. So, and I got kind of a lot of grief from my director at that time of why did I realistically, oh, strange, he's going to deliver a package?
Yeah.
More soccer balls. Yeah. But realistically, why, like, honestly, why I'm not going to Cali Crown, because I'm supposed to beat up on all my hometown competition. And for me, that's not the direction that I wanted that boys team to go.
Right.
So when I look at like the best teams, I always like to try to keep an eye on, who's doing really good things with their teams. I truly feel like in the 08 girls, we've got the South Valley Lynch team, which is coached by Artie Lynch.
Dude, they just lost in the finals.
In the final. And I heard they dominated the game and just lost in PKs. Once again, in PKs. But what did they do? How many times did they miss all those goals until PKs?
But dude, it's really great for them to get that far.
Absolutely. And great for Bakersfield.
Yeah. Artie's a good guy.
Artie's a great guy. Yeah. I think on the 07 girls side, I think it's equal across the board. I don't see there being one dominant team.
Abel and Paul coming up. Abel and Paul.
There you go.
Coming up from our, they're the 2 coaches working.
The 06 girls team has to definitely go to South Valley. Jay Gore, doing phenomenal work with them. The 05 girls team goes to, I think, Monica Chambers at South Valley.
Yeah. Dude, I'm coaching 05s now.
Well,
it's going to shift.
It's going to shift then, because I saw what you did with your 03s.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll see.
Which thank you very much, because I had them all at the high school, and it just made things really easy this year. Yeah. The 04 girls, by far, I think it's the South Valley Mendoza team, John Mendoza. The 03s is obviously you.
Yeah, maybe. Jay's good. Jay does good.
Jay does a really good job with the 03s. I just think that when I look at talent for talent and how well they play together, I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we got a good group of girls. I mean, our 03 girls are pretty good.
The 02s, I would have to say you have to give it to Troy Lynch.
Yeah.
Who is like me. We scream at all the kids and make them cry sometimes.
I know.
And then the 01s for sure goes to Lauren Howlett over at South Valley.
Right.
I
think that one of the things. Go ahead.
I look at the boys' side. Here's some of their soccer balls. Yeah. Oh no, you got skills there.
We'll come back to the boys. Who do you think the best boys team?
So I think in Bakersfield, the best boys teams, boys 08s would be the Aztecs, coached by Alfie.
Dude, that team is very good.
Very good. I mean, it was like on State Cup last year.
Yeah.
Good run this year in the State Cup.
They lost in the last second on a PK. Like literally, they're in double overtime, in extra time of double overtime on a PK. It was a deserved PK. They should have lost, but referee was pretty poor leading up to that. 2 PKs in that game against us. And they lost in that game, and that team lost in the finals eventually. So they're really good. They won Surf Cup and Thanksgiving. Anyway, sorry.
I look at the 07 boys. There's 2 good teams. I think you guys, Aztecs, have one, and South Valley has a good one going. It'd be amazing if you guys joined them together.
Right.
Made one really good team. But I think that's a lot of the issues that we'll talk about later. The 06, I think you have the dominant force of the 06 boys. In fact, you have a lot of dominant forces on the boys' side.
Yeah.
You guys do a really good job on the boys' side. And we'll get better on the girls' side because you're going to now coach a couple more teams.
That's our main focus.
The 05s, honestly, if we put all the 05s together and I didn't take some 05s with me to the beach, we could have like a top 05 team in the nation here.
Right.
Because you've got 4 or 5 kids with me. You've got little Jorgito.
Yeah.
Luis Gill,
Josh, Mendoza. We got like 5 or 6 guys that are playing up.
Exactly.
On the 04s that are going to be in Premier playing a year
and handle their own. So another topic we could always talk about is like, why does that kid play up if they can't even dominate their own age group?
Dude, trust me.
But
I fight with parents about this stuff all the time.
Another topic for another day. The 04 boys, both Aztecs have phenomenal teams with Troy Lynch and with Jerry Clary. And then the 03s, you have the 03s.
Yep.
The 02s, I would say Aztecs.
Yeah. So the Galaxy does a good job within that age group too. We've always won head-to-head, so
then I'd have to say it's you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I mean, listen, that age group could be. There's so much talent that's spread out within that age group. I would say we're the better team.
And so that's, I think, what leads me into why I'm doing this is because I think in order to make Bakersfield soccer what could be more elite, more strong, is to have some way of having all these boys play together.
So here's an interesting thing. So I agree. If this is the problem. I firmly believe this. So this is the problem with Bakersfield soccer. When I first came into the community, when I played on high school, or excuse me, when I was in high school, there was 11 players by my senior year that were playing on club teams in LA, in my age, 11, right? That would travel twice a week to go to practice down south. And so when I'm like in my early 20s, I thought, man, what if everybody would have just stayed together? We could have had a really good team. So then fast forward to now when I'm coaching, and then I went out one time and I made a presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and I met with a bunch of coaches in the community and giving them all this data about why it is that we need to unite as a club. And then Jeff Thorne, he was the owner of the brigade, he said, you'll never be able to unite the teams in Bakersfield. And I was like so determined to do it at that point. And I believe now you're never going to be able to unite the teams. But we had, as an example though, my team that was independent, essentially, we were under the brigade, but we were essentially independent. And then Ricardo Gutierrez, the other guy that started the Aztecs, his team was an Aztec team. So him and I, childhood friends, we coached in the same age group. What ended up happening is that we both, on our teams individually, got to a level that no individual team was doing in Bakersfield, but we did it in the same age group. So the question is it an anomaly of what it is that's going on in that age group? So why do we have two teams in 04s that are, like, what was going on in 2004, right? Or 2003, like, why are parents having such good kids that are good at soccer?
For sure.
The reason why, I think, is that it's actually good coaching. So do we lack, could we be much better if we united the talent? The answer is 100% yes. But the actual issue is that we don't have enough good coaching from essentially from 7 to 12 years old.
And I think at 7 to 12, you need to have your top coaches. You need to have, honestly, it's going to sound crazy, but you need to have your A and B licensed coaches.
Yeah.
Because you want the foundation to be there so that at 12, they actually can control the ball.
Yeah.
They can pass the ball instead of worrying so much about, let's say, their shape at 11 and playing out of the back.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's not, in my mind, necessarily what needs to be taught at 9 and 10 is the ability to be able to play on the back.
Right. Yeah. No. And again, so when we look at like my team, so going back to the reason why I wanted this whole entire thing, the problem is that I remember at that time when my team was really good, we were essentially a B team in town, and we were in gold at that time with no academy, with no SCDSL, no ECNL. So we were in gold. Ricardo's team was in Premier. We were qualifying for gold, so we were going to have two teams in Premier in Bakersfield at the same time. A guy in the club said his team was silver. They're getting rocked in silver. He was the A team of the brigade and the best in town, but they're getting rocked, dude, in silver. And that coach said something to me one time about my team and his team being like the same. And I'm like, dude, my team's a B team in the community, and pound for pound, my team is way better than your team. So again, in that age group, that was 93s, 94s, in our current 2004 age group where we have two really good teams, what is the common denominator of what it is that you're going to find? And in my opinion, dude, it's good coaching. So what we don't lack talent in the town. Like, of course, if we were in LA, if we were in San Diego, we could just cut kids, bring in new ones, cut kids, bring in new ones. Going back to the problem even with the US soccer.
This weekend I had that tryout for the ECNLs, for the 05s, and I had like 70 kids out there.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you had 70 kids at one of your tryouts.
Yeah.
And I had to cut 20 kids the first day.
Yeah.
Just so I could sift through really how good is that player that I'm trying to look at, because he's either playing with a kid that probably shouldn't be playing at the ECNL level, or he is actually a pretty good player.
Well, and we had a kid that moved here from San Diego, and then I get pushback sometimes from the dad about some various things, and I'm like, look, dude, of course you can create an environment where you have 70 kids that come to a tryout, and the environment itself will create it so that if your kid has a little bit of fire to them, they're going to develop. But what Bakersfield needs to, or what some people have to understand, parents have to understand sometimes, at least if the coach has the right mentality, if I look at a player and I'm like, look, man, we're going to live and die by you. So as a parent, as a consumer, they have to look at it like, dude, I'm extracting the most out of that kid because we're going to live or die by that. The problem is coaches that don't have ambition, don't have work ethic, they look at that player, they say, they're not that good. I don't need to extract more out of them. I'm just going to give up. It doesn't really matter. I'm getting my check. And again, dude, so that is a cultural thing. That is a thing that we're trying to change within the community, at the very least in our club. So, so yeah, man. I mean, and I think that the illusion is, the last thing I'll say is this: is that I think that you're spot on. Some of these age groups have B teams in town. So some of the age groups where Sal Valley is better than us, let's say, our B team is actually still very good. Whereas in other age groups, we have the A team, so to speak, in town, and I'm like, yeah, they're okay, but they're underachieving still.
My biggest issue I think I have, honestly, within majority of soccer communities is everybody wants their kid on the A team.
Yeah.
And they forget that, especially at the younger ages, it should be about development.
Mm-hmm.
And they would rather have their kid who's not very good, let's say, on the A team, sitting on the bench, than playing on the B team.
It's nuts.
And to me, that's crazy. I think that you should let your kid play where he's going to have the most success, where he's going to learn the most, especially if you have a good coach on a B team, which is hard to find.
Hard in our
But I think in all reality, having letting go of the ego and worrying about where your kid is as far as A or B. I mean, I know some people that have their kids and they tell me, oh, I have my kid on the A team at this other club. But realistically, that's just another B team.
Right.
So,
100%.
I mean, I
They're
don't care.
A C team of the community.
Exactly. So it's not just because you're the first team in that club and there's two other teams. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I've got the fourth team over there in South Bay of 08 boys. I mean, we have 8 teams total, 4 on Long Beach and 4 on South Bay.
Yeah.
And I mean, we still have a ton of talent, but I'm also getting a pull from, million plus people.
Yeah.
But
you have to do a good job coaching.
Otherwise,
if you do a poor job coaching,
they're going to go to Fram.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Fullerton Rangers. They're going to go wherever they want. LA Galaxy, South Bay, and they have like a pretty good academy going over there. So I mean, we have to do a good job as coaches at the younger age groups. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. It's hard. It's just really hard. There's less money there, so the coaches that are good, they don't want to coach little kids. We'll have coaches that are coming to the club, they've never even coached before. They're like, well, I don't want to coach little kids. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm like, dude, who are you?
How many times have you had a coach that just wants to coach a good team on that? You know what I mean?
It's nuts.
I know a couple coaches in the community that honestly can only coach good teams.
Yeah.
And like if you handed them a bad team with bad players, like they would run away. And I enjoy coaching kids that are maybe underdeveloped.
Yeah.
And you obviously want to get them as early as you can. The worst thing is getting a kid at like 16 and he can barely pass and receive a ball.
Yeah.
But I mean, as coaches, we need to look beyond just winning games. We need to look at the development of the kids first.
Yeah, and I just think that bottom line is that the mentality is that if you are the best in town, do not, you have to measure yourself. When I was first coaching and I was going against Ricardo's team, so to speak, my mentality was, and he taught me this, and we were just friends, we were at different clubs, and he said, dude, I don't measure myself to anybody in town. I measure myself against the best team. And dude, that mentality, there was this particular team there called Extreme Italia, and that team just destroyed everybody. They're the best in the age group, and that was like all I cared about, dude, was Extreme Italia. We ended up playing them, by the way. We beat them 2-1 a week after they just got done winning Dallas Cup. It was sick. So, and we were a B team of the community. So my mentality was just completely different. We had 2 national team players on our team. Ricky had 2 national team players on his team. So, and again, dude, that's 4 kids on the national team within one age group. So what happened in the other age groups? And that's kind of the issue of why I wanted to bring this up, is so that people understand being an A team in town isn't that big of a deal. Being a B team in town isn't that bad, depending upon where you're measuring yourself, the measuring stick. So, sweet.
How can Bakersfield soccer as a community improve the clubs? The opinion expressed here is that of Mr. Dold. It is not necessarily out of rate, and the CKB staff, the Aztecs board of directors, or producer Reggie Sanders. We now continue your previously scheduled programming.
So this is cool. So the biggest thing, with this show, this thing that I'm trying to do is bring value to people, bring value to consumers, educate them, people that are willing to take the time to watch 30-minute videos. Hopefully we keep it under 30 minutes. So, but at the end of the day, what do you think that Bakersfield soccer needs to do in order to improve? How can the club soccer here improve?
I mean, obviously,
yell at kids more.
Yell at kids more.
No.
Make them cry. Make them hate soccer, because apparently that's all I do.
Yeah. But that's what I hear, dude.
But then I get results. You know what? I tell the truth.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, I tell the truth.
Can you tell the truth nicer?
I could.
Yeah.
But I mean, will I? I'm trying to. I'm gonna have to. Down in Long Beach,
because consequences.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I guess my point is, I'm just giving you a hard time, man. So, but to really try to leave on a positive note in this sense, Bakersfield soccer has a bunch of issues, certainly, but while at the same time we've done some decent things in this community. So, but what can we do to get even better?
I think to get even better is, and I don't know if it's even ever going to happen, but if it did, if you had 2 clubs and basically you got rid of a lot of the other smaller clubs. So when I go over to the soccer park and I see Bakersfield Legacy, or Bakersfield United. It's not that they're not good. It's, for me, all those places, the majority of people want free, and there's nothing free in this world.
Sure.
So the product is the most important thing, and if I want something, I'm gonna have to pay for it usually. I've never ever been able to get something in the United States for free.
Right.
So I think if Bakersfield wanted to be a really, really good soccer program and establishment, it would be having great coaches, trying to get people to move to Bakersfield to coach in 115-degree summers, and realistically coming together as much as you could to try to do what's best for the kids. And I just had a conversation with a parent the other night, and the saddest thing about the two age groups I think about in this town would be my 05 boys and Troy Lynch's 02 girls. And when you look at it, it all came down to the fact that parents, coaches, directors couldn't see eye to eye and ruined things for both age groups. And regardless of whoever's fault it was, in the end, the people that paid the most were the kids.
Yeah.
And so we need to find a way so that we can all coexist and try to do what's right for the kids.
Yeah. It's so hard though, right? So I want to play devil's advocate here a little bit. So there's two main things. One of the things is that if I'm a parent on one of the legacy teams that are really good, or that are decent, I should say, and they've beaten one of our teams, right? And then they say, oh, well, look, we're over here at the legacy. We've done it for X amount of dollars. You guys do 2X amount of dollars, and we beat you. So then why would we come and be a part of the Aztecs or on and on?
I think it just really depends on your goals. So at the Aztecs, you're going to have the opportunity to go play college.
Right.
You're going to have the connections to be able to go play college. And life is all about connections. And not saying that at the legacy you're not going to be able to go play college through them, but are you going to be at a competitive enough level and play premier level teams, play in college showcases to be able to get your kid ID'd and noticed so that they can possibly go play? You were saying, well, and I've had that issue too, well, we beat you guys, why would I bring my kid over there, pay more money? But are you looking at the end result for your kid? You know, and honestly, when is the last time that Bakersfield Legacy or Bakersfield United or any of those smaller clubs have ever sent a kid to college?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, and that's what's really hard. I think that what I do like about a lot of those organizations, Bakersfield United as an example, New Image, what they do a good job of, I think, is they're helping kids in the community. They're doing it for a cheap price and on and on. But this goes back to why I believed in the tiered system. I've gone to organizations. I went to. They'll remain nameless. We're trying to bring a kid over to the club to be able to play academy. Tons of just controversy. The coach is holding the kid back, on and on it goes. They're not even playing Coast League, like nothing. They just play regular club. They played in the local Bakersfield League. He's playing 2 years down. They combined 3 age groups. They won the game like 19-0, right? And then we're losing our game to Albion 2-0. The coach came over in the middle of the game and he's like smiling, dude, ear to ear. The kid didn't come with us, by the way. So the coach is like smiling in your ear. He's like, yeah, we just won 19-0 and you guys are losing 2-0, like all this stuff. I'm like, are you nuts? You just beat a team that's 2 years younger, 19-0. You're trying to brag about it. You're holding that kid back. So my issue is not necessarily the legacies in the Bakersfield Uniteds existing, because some of those teams are actually very good. It's when they need to progress, not even necessarily to our club. They might need to progress to Sal Valley or something like that, and they're being held back. That's the biggest issue, because when Marlon is ready to go to Seattle Sounders, when Bryson is ready to go to Seattle Sounders, I don't sit there and say, don't go. Yeah. We had a kid, Carlos Grande, that made the under-17 national team, was going to go to the residency program in Florida, or did go to the residency program in Florida. And the mom asked me, well, what should we do? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You got to go. And she's like, what about the team? I'm like, screw our team.
Absolutely.
So that's the issue I have with it. I think they're good for soccer in a way for the community. But then when kids are ready to go to another level, whether that's the Aztecs or another club, that's where I think that they need to ultimately move on. The coaches have to have enough humility to know that it's not about them, and that they need to go out there and increase their education, that they need to align themselves with maybe some other organizations like the Aztecs or Sal Valley, and some of that stuff. Because then, you have these dads that are coaching the teams, and they make it too much about them rather than ultimately the
and I mean, I'm in the same situation. There's a girl was on the JV team at my high school at Stockdale, and I was actually trying to convince her to go with you, because even though she plays for one of those other clubs, she's not getting pushed the way she needs to be pushed.
Yeah.
And I know that you could give her what she needs as far as helping her get to the next level. And realistically for me, I want to see that for her.
Right.
And the thing that's going to hold her back potentially is the fact that she can score 50 goals in Coast League against a bronze level team,
right?
As to where she might score only 3 goals in the Premier League, but she's going to be seen around all these college coaches.
Right.
So for me, I hope that her and her father make a decision that's best for her, and that's the only thing I can hope for. But realistically, when it all comes down to it, and you said those clubs are good for those players, but you have to have a coach
to start. But then that coach should be the one that
should push them on. But will they push them on?
No.
You know what I mean? Because they want to still be able to win at the silver level at 17. And to me, that's insane.
Right.
But imagine if you would have had that kid. I mean, she's like 5'9" and she strikes the ball hard like boys. Imagine if you had her at 8 and 9 and she didn't start at Legacy or one of those smaller clubs. See, so that's the other thing, and I'll play devil's advocate with you, is imagine if you were able to get those kids at 8 and 9 and teach them the foundation.
That's true too. That's true
because,
too.
Just because, and the other thing you run into is they start there at that club where it was free and they dominated, but they didn't get the right foundation. So then they come over at 14, 15 wanting more, but there's no way they're ever going to be able to. It's too late. And the parents are looking at you like, well, I need your help. Well, you should have been here when you were 8 and 9.
I know.
Not when you're 15.
Yeah, dude, the amount of times that I've had kids, parents, whatever it may be, kids that I've pursued hard at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, they don't come. Then all of a sudden they want to come later. It always happens around like 8th grade, freshman year, because they start going to school with other Aztec kids or whatever it may be. They make varsity. One of the Aztec kids make varsity. The JV kid, or excuse me, the Legacy kid theoretically, or the Bakersfield United or the Mexican League kid ends up not making it. So then they all want to come out, and then I'm like, dude, it's too late. One thing, and I tell this to parents all the time, there's 2 things that I'll end with. One of the big things is that people all the time, they're like, oh, I wish I would have listened to you back then. That never makes me feel good. It's always disappointing, dude.
Yeah.
I never feel like this sense of like, I told you so. Now, dude, I'm super competitive, and I love when people doubt me. I love haters, but that's a different
See, but
piece.
I like it because I've had parents come up to me before and say, hey, I know that you have the reputation that you have in town, and that, I should have just let my kid play on your team. Because I know that you would have got him there. Still,
which he may have cried, but that didn't help the kid.
He may have cried through practice a couple of times. But hey, I'll tell you what, at 14 and 15, he'll be able to play for anybody. So there was this one kid on a little girl that was playing actually in the Aztecs, and she just left to South Valley. She was training with me privately, and the 07 coach at South Valley found out that she was training with me for 3-4 months, and he even said to the parent, hey, like, I didn't know your kid was training with him. You should have told me, that way I could yell at your kid. And we all started kind of laughing, because the dad was like, you need to push my kid, she trains with Matt. And so that's one thing you'll get from me, is your kid will always get the truth, and when they leave from me, as far as their skill level, they'll be able to also handle any type of coaching.
Yeah, they might need therapy though.
They might need therapy.
Yeah. So, but yes, so I agree. But when somebody comes back and says, I should have listened to you, that doesn't make them any better at that moment, right? So it gives me confidence to continue to move forward and continue to give the right advice, because I have so many different stories of kids that maybe went a different route, it didn't work out for them, and I'm like justified in that sense. So the kid that is in a similar situation tomorrow, I'm going to give him similar advice. But the point is that I've never felt like, when people have doubted us or whatever it may be, and then we go out, we win a game, or we get a kid to a certain level, like people, all this stuff that we've done on the boys' side, people used to say all the time, you're never going to be able to do that on the boys' side, and we did it. Now we're starting to do stuff on the girls' side. Well, I'll continue to do it, and people that will remain nameless in this town that might be directors at other clubs that have dominant girls programs have told me, you're never going to be able to do that on the girls' side, and that's cool. Like, I'm down. Like, I'm gonna continue to do it. But a girl that I'd say you need to do X, Y, Z, or a boy that I say you got to do X, Y, Z, comes to me at 16 and says, I wish I would have listened to you, it doesn't make me feel good at all. At all. I mean, parents maybe a little bit when they're jerks. The other thing, though, what I will say is, even for my own club, dude, we've encouraged kids to leave the club and go to other local clubs that are better. I've done that twice to both Galaxy and South Valley, because the integrity of that situation is, you have to do what's in the best interest of the kids, no matter what. So I've literally encouraged kids to leave our own club and go on to other situations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just passed on some information from another JV girl to a South Valley coach to a parent last night, because I want that kid to be able to have the most opportunity. And everybody knows, what happened. Most people know what happened with me in South Valley. So
sure.
I'm able to put that aside because in the end, I want what's best for the kid.
Yeah, 100%. Sweet. All right, dude, so that's it. So, Matt, like I said, you're definitely a controversial dude. People are probably going to, this is what's sad. People are going to hate on us, hate on
No, they'll hate on me.
They're going to hate on us, hate on this show thing because you came on or because we said some stuff about some other people.
I never meant to, like, say negative things about other people, but I would always...
Or people, I think we
maybe clubs.
Clubs, yeah.
Clubs, yeah. I mean, but you asked me, what could be better for Bakersfield.
That's why we do the show.
Once again, I gave the truth.
Yeah, you should have seen my first episode that I did. It was so negative that I reshot the whole entire thing because the people that I let see it, they were like, you don't say anything positive.
I saw the last episode, it was 55 minutes, and I fell asleep.
Yeah. This one, for sure, might be too long already, but we're going to try to keep it at 30 minutes. So some of what your genius said today, it might not make the final cut. But listen, it was good meeting you. I hope to maintain a friendship over the years. And then if you ever want to come back for 115-degree weather, then just come back, dude. We'll find you a job.
Nice.
Sweet. Thanks.
Thanks.